Hey guys, I just wanted to make this video. It's not the usual format I make these videos, but this is a pretty serious and sensitive topic that I should have addressed a week ago, but I'm making a video on it now because, stuff. I'm gonna make a video later on in the week talking about why I haven't been active on this channel, but for the time being, I do not want to talk about it because if you guys know by the title of this video what's gonna be about, I don't want to be talking about several topics. I don't want to make people seem like I am using this to get views, because this is, like I said, this is a pretty sensitive topic and I feel like it should be treated with respect like every other people treat it. So first of all, if you guys don't know, if you guys haven't been living under a rock, but as you all know, on Easter Sunday, Larson said the word on an iRacing stream, and I don't mean the word like the word that the rappers use, because that's a different word, that's a different variation of the word. But he said the hard word, the word that should never be said, the word that should be forbidden, in my opinion, should be forbidden in every people vocabulary. It should not be said, but he said it, and because of that, a lot of stuff happened. NASCAR as a whole was set 30 years back, basically. Now everybody thinks that NASCAR is a redneck sport, which is something that NASCAR has tried to correct, but now because of Larson's actions, NASCAR has gone 30 years back, and they've done a lot of damage control. I don't think they've done enough to correct the damage, considering that people didn't have a positive perception of NASCAR, considering that NASCAR as a whole was dying. NASCAR had this perception ever since like 2016-ish that the sport was dying, and then Larson says the word on a night racing stream. This just doesn't help NASCAR at all. I do think that they've done a pretty good job, especially what they did with suspending Larson. iRacing did the same, World of Outlaws did the same. Jake Ganassi Racing suspended him. And then when Credit One Bank and McDonald's severed ties with him, they had no other choice but to fire him, because Larson basically had no sponsors to back on. I mean, he still got Advent Health. I think I read around on Twitter that Advent Health will stay sponsoring Larson throughout the whole controversy. But Advent Health is what? Just a part-time sponsor at best. Advent Health will only sponsor you like 4 races tops right now. It's not like a full-time sponsor like a Credit One Bank or a McDonald's to help you fund you the full season. So yeah, basically it was Jake Ganassi Racing had a choice between Larson, the best driver he's ever had, or his sponsors, losing millions of dollars in sponsors. And of course, NASCAR is a sport that pretty much depends on sponsorship, so money over talent. Larson, it goes bye-bye, and it's pretty disappointing. I'm pretty disappointed in Larson. I thought he would have handled himself better. He is a Drive for Diversity graduate, for God's sakes. He was part of NASCAR's Drive for Diversity program that basically is geared towards minorities like female drivers, African American drivers. Larson is of Asian descent. His mother is Japanese. His second name is Miyata. So he is, of course, a Drive for Diversity. He was part of the Drive for Diversity program. And the fact that he said the word on live stream, that just makes it worse, because, like I said, he's a Drive for Diversity graduate. And many people will say, I've seen many people on Twitter say, why does Larson get penalized? Why does Larson get punished for that? But other people say the word every day. That word gets tossed around every day. Rappers use it. First of all, the word that rappers use is a different variation of the word that Larson said on livestream. They're not the same word. The word that Larson said is very, very disgusting, and it has a lot of, it brings us back to a lot of dark times in history, not only in US history but in world history as a whole, to a time of racism, segregation, and it is a time that we all want to move on from. But Larson just had to open a can of worms by saying that word. And second of all, just because some people say the word, it's not okay for other people to follow through and say it as well. This is a word, like I said, that should not be allowed in any US citizen's vocabulary. It should not be said ever. And yeah, also, Kyle Larson is a very high profile driver. It's not the same for a normal person to say the word than for somebody as high profile as Kyle Larson to say it. Because what? A normal person has no influence, has no like social power. He has zero influence. So for him to say the N word, what? You won't even get expelled in high school for saying the word. But if you are a professional, and you say the word, then yeah, the consequences are massive, because you are expected as a grown man, you are held to a higher standard, and you should understand not only the letter of the law, but also the spirit of the law, like the moral ethics. You have to respect the moral ethics, and that was just ethically and morally wrong. That word, what Larson just said, encapsulates all the ethically and morally wrong things in the world. Do I think Larson was immature in saying it? Yes, to a certain extent. I do not think Larson was immature. I'll say Larson was more careless when he said the word. Careless is the better word to describe Larson, because Larson didn't realize what he had until he lost it. He didn't realize he was playing with fire when he tossed around the word. And then again, we have heard him apologize several times. He said he thought that he was on his private channel when he said the word, but still, some people get caught, some people don't get caught. Unfortunately, Larson got caught because he risked himself saying the word. Again, do I hate Larson for it? No, I'm just disappointed. Am I willing to forgive him? Of course. I have seen Larson. I think Larson has handled this situation rather well. He immediately, the moment the news broke that Larson had immediately said the word and he was trending on social media for all the wrong reasons, he immediately called Bubba Wallace and he apologized for him. And Bubba was very open towards him, and they talked. Larson also talked with Willie T. Reeves, another African American driver who had a short stint in NASCAR, and both of them encouraged him to just keeping on, trying to do things right. I applaud Larson for that. Many people in his situation would just write a message on their cell phone and just screenshot it and send it on and tweet it out. Larson just in a camera, he was apologizing. He was nearly in tears. He was broken, man. It was really really sad. But then again, I'm sorry, but he deserves most of the blame here, because after all, he is the one who put us all who put himself, and of course not only that, but he put NASCAR in this as a whole in a situation where they have to do a lot of damage control now, because a lot of people now have the perception that NASCAR is a redneck sport. It's a redneck southern sport. Basically, the perception that people had about NASCAR in the 70s is what people think of NASCAR now. And it doesn't help the fact that NASCAR is in a state of decline. Not really in a state of decline, but that's what people who don't watch NASCAR think. And thus NASCAR has to do a lot of damage control, and it's a mess down there. So I don't want to get into this topic a lot, because it is pretty much, I consider it pretty much out of topic, very off topic. But who will replace Larson? Who will replace Kyle Larson after all this is over? Or basically after we return back to racing, because the damage is already done. Larson is fired from Ganassi. Who will replace him? There have been two drivers tossed around: Ross Chastain, JP McMurray. Of course, Ross Chastain is right now subbing in for Newman. Newman has no timetable for his return. But if Newman were to return, then we all assume Chastain will go to Ganassi full time in the 42. Now, I've seen many people get happy for this, get happy that Chastain is finally getting a cup ride at Chip Ganassi Racing. Okay, I get it, but people need to calm down and realize this is not how it was supposed to be. Because what it was supposed to be was Kurt Busch was supposed to retire in the near future, and Chastain was supposed to take over the number one car for Ganassi, not the other way around. Not in this situation. Not with this situation. Of course, Chastain could most likely land on Ganassi now on the number 42, but it wasn't supposed to happen like this, man. So people should just stop and reflect on that, and just realize that if you are cheering for Chastain, that's like you're cheering for Larson's demise. You're just like thanking Larson for saying the word, and yeah, that's just wrong. In my opinion, that's just wrong. And yeah, there's also been JP McMurray there being tossed around and all that, but yeah, he could. I don't think McMurray will go back to running full time. Maybe a part-time schedule, yeah, depending on how many races Chastain fills in for Newman. If Newman isn't fully recovered yet, again, we don't know about that whole situation. And so yeah, in conclusion, what I want to say is I'm gonna be one of those people that forgives but never forgets. I am willing to forgive Kyle Larson, not right now because that incident is still fresh in everybody's minds, but maybe 1 or 2 years down the line, maybe I'm willing to forgive him once he gets reinstated into NASCAR. Do I believe he will redeem himself? Sure, of course. I mean, Larson, in terms of raw talent, Kyle Larson is one of the best talents in NASCAR in terms of pure talent and willing a race car. He can really do that, and that of course is going to, if you can wheel a race car, you're obviously going to have a place in NASCAR, with or without sponsorship. Because if you don't have a sponsor, sponsors will come come running towards you the more talented you are. Of course, right now nobody's going to want to sign Larson because of his image, because as of right now his reputation is tarnished, but I'm all in for a good redemption story, and Kyle Larson is right now carving his path for redemption. So maybe 3 years down the line, if Larson's redemption goes fine and he finds himself back in victory lane in the near future, don't be surprised if many people find themselves cheering for him, because if I remember, I know this is not the same situation, but AJ Allmendinger got suspended for taking a random drug test back in 2012, And just 2 years later, he was back in victory lane and people were happy for him. Now, this is not the same situation as with Larson, but just to put that into perspective. When Larson, right now Larson has hit rock bottom, but after you hit rock bottom, the only way you can go is up.